Welcome to episode 36 of Rebirth Revolution. My name is Melissa Olson. My brain got a little break this week while doing work on a video series from a climate change symposium. The brilliant architects and scientists talked about all that is being figured out and the innovative ideas that are at our disposal. Listening to highly intelligent, highly committed professionals is the antidote my brain needs to repair itself from the cesspool of lies and bad ideas we are currently stewing in. It's not until you hear really smart people that you realize just how far we have fallen. When you hear about the work of those who believe in and embrace science in a manner that actually solves challenges, you have to come to terms with just how pointless most of what we hear is. Whatever you focus on gets bigger. The stupidity, cruelty, and selfishness that we have been focusing on daily has indeed grown. It's time we shift our focus. There is no longer a reason to give airtime to those who reject science. There's no longer a reason to give airtime to those who reject facts. There is no longer a reason to listen to those who do not have workable solutions. There's also no reason to listen to people who may be brilliant in an unrelated field as they share their opinions about scientific matters they do not understand, even though they say them like they have the final word. When, through my work, I get to listen to brilliant minds with brilliant plans, I feel like I'm given admittance to an alternate universe. How depressing is that? I tell you, those people are out there, and they need our attention more than ever. When faced with a challenge, any fool can either deny it exists or form an argument against solving it. People can spout off all day long about why it can't or shouldn't be fixed. That is so much easier than actually putting your head down, dissecting the problem, and taking in all the possible solutions from those who know more. Fragile egos do not want to hear anything that they are incapable of either understanding or solving. They'd rather argue against the obvious, the challenge that is there for all of us to see. Complete fools can rule at the denial game. Only smart people rule at the solutions game. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross defined the stages of grief as denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. She wrote groundbreaking work on death and dying, and as I look at her stages, it occurs to me that this same trajectory applies to anything that we wish were not true, anything that is a huge challenge. It isn't limited to someone dying. We are easily undone by anything that happens that we have somehow convinced ourselves cannot happen. And let's just start the list of absurd beliefs with the one where we convince ourselves that neither we nor our loved ones will ever leave this school someday. That's pretty amazing, since we have yet to see even one example of a person who remained here indefinitely. Yet every time someone dies, or we find out we are dying, we are in total shock and begin the journey through the denial, the anger, the bargaining, the depression, and finally, acceptance. So it is with events like pandemics and climate change. Maybe the holdup is that there are those among us who never get beyond the denial and anger stages. They never get through the emotional journey of accepting that we have a challenge so we can go about facing, attacking, and ultimately winning the challenge. But here's the thing. There are those among us who will never move beyond the denial and anger. Their current level of spiritual awareness does not give them the capacity for the rest of the ride. We can't afford to wait for them to catch up. We can't make decisions that affect us all by accommodating every half-wit who is unable to get past the initial phases. We don't have time for that, since it won't ever happen anyway. We need to stop giving our time and attention to those who are too foolish to deserve it. Start looking for the helpers and give them your focus. Our survival depends upon what they have to share. Their survival depends on our support and attention. I realize that the challenges we face seem huge and sometimes insurmountable, but they aren't. There are solutions that can be put into play, and the solutions will not only solve the challenge they are designed for, they will also create entirely new industries that will bring the jobs we want. Their ideas are exciting and life-affirming. There are many people who are working at very high levels of both intelligence and spiritual awareness who can lead the way. Here's the thing about these people. They are not intimidated or triggered by people who are smarter than them. They are always scanning the room to find someone who knows more than they do in hopes of it moving their work forward too. They are looking for those who have puzzle pieces they are missing. They respect the work and knowledge of others. The challenges ahead of us, though huge in scope, are like the little challenges we face daily in the sense that we know they must be faced, and every moment we deny that simple truth, we know that the challenge will become even bigger, the consequences more difficult to deal with. The denial and avoidance don't free us from thinking of them or experiencing that sense of dread. The sense of dread is not a given. Just like anything else you put off in life, the moment you work to address it, the feeling of dread begins to dissipate. We can't feel good until we are moving in the right direction. The brilliant people in our midst have not given in to a sense of dread. They have come up with workable solutions. They have taken the time to rethink everything related to the challenge, and they have found ways to stop and reverse the damage that is being done. This is true in all the disciplines. The smart people never stopped designing solutions just because the world around them was not capable of hearing them yet. The relief my brain felt was really a sense of awe and hopefulness that comes from hearing all that can be done. Hearing how detailed they are in factoring into their solutions every element involved and using the natural world to heal the natural world stretches the mind and the imagination. The smart people are at the ready, wanting to do in our lives and in the natural world that which we want to do in the revolution. They take it all apart, examine every bit of what has been thought and what has been done, and figure out what to keep and what to get rid of, thereby making forward movement possible. They look for better ways that take the school and all its students into account. In the Rebirth Revolution, we are open to the mystical, But we are not going to base any of our decisions on magical thinking. We are part of the system, and the system has mappable rules and outcomes. The rules of the system are found in what we call science. Those who are willing and able to tackle our biggest challenges should be granted superhero status and should be brought into greater focus, beginning with our attention. While the sounds of those who hold us back are unavoidable, we would do well to plan some time each and every day to listen to those who are committed to moving us forward. Those are the voices we need to hear. It feels like life in this school is just dealing with one challenge after another. Our overall challenge is choosing light over darkness, and we are tasked with choosing to either move forward and up to higher levels or to stay exactly where we are. The worst choice that is available to us is to move backwards. We are all committed to getting better, but that is no walk in the park. Or is it? I picture our journey as a long path with some twists and turns and places where we can leave the path to go right or left so as to explore another path entirely. In my mind, those paths are dotted with benches where we have opportunities to sit, take a load off, and reflect before pushing off again to continue the journey. Along this path, there are challenges, both personal and collective in nature. These function as the speed bumps in life. At the lower levels of spiritual awareness, we will take those bumps at too high a speed, which will send us flying. At the mid-levels, we will slow down before hitting them. At the higher levels, we will be happy to see them so we can use our considerable skills to not only navigate them, but to use them for our future growth. Each grade level of spiritual awareness earns you more tools and more perspective. As you go higher, it also gives you back the scattered focus that was wasted when you still thought you had to be involved in other people's challenges. It's a very useful practice to sit down after each of the speed bumps of life to inventory what you gained during the process of surviving or even mastering that particular bump. You will always be a better, stronger, wiser person after a challenge if you choose to face it and do the work it involves. Doing the post-mortem on a challenge allows you to see all the positive it contained, leaving you less likely to feel that your speed bumps are pointless, cruel, and overwhelming. This runs very contrary to the old way of thinking, which was to be unhappy that you ever had a speed bump in the first place. That was always ridiculous, because you were only in this school because you wanted to grow to a higher level, and you can't do that without moving on the path and facing every speed bump it contains. Just as no one sitting on the bench in sports has ever won the MVP award, you cannot complete your earthly mission while staying off the path. The bench is the reward after a speed bump. The bench is where you catch your breath, process what you just went through, nurture and congratulate yourself, and plot your next move. When you are ready for your next move, you will move forward with renewed vigor and vision, along with the capacity to take on the next challenge. I remember someone asking me, when my children were teens, what my official position was on drugs and alcohol. I know the expected response would paint them as wrong or immoral, but that was not my greatest concern. Intoxicants are a way of taking yourself out of the game. They are a way of benching yourself, but they are not alone in that. Any distraction that benches you should be equally concerning. That could be excessive video gaming, shopping, social media interactions, or even reading books. None of them are wrong as such, but if they're used to keep you sitting comfortably on the bench instead of moving on the path, then that's an issue you want to look at. The issue is why you don't feel like you can get up and keep moving forward. We are given the choice of staying comfortable where we are or moving forward. It's like everything else in life. One is not good and the other bad. It all comes down to the balance we create between the two. Our brains very easily fall into grooves, finding comfort in the expected. We need to balance that need with the very real need to continue down the path, knowing full well that it is full of the unexpected. We would be insane if we tried to take on life like a sprint. If we ran, bouncing off one speed bump after another without taking the time to refuel and reflect, we would damage ourselves and others along the way. We would be like toddlers when they learn to walk by tilting their head forward and just moving their feet to keep up with their head, even though they're heading straight for a wall or a staircase. Sitting on the bench and distracting yourself into feeling that all is well, even though you've had more than enough time to reflect and refuel, is equally perilous. It means you miss everything. It means you will need more and more distractions to quiet the part of you that is innately fueled to make the journey. You brought with you an internal voice that knows why you're here and what you will need to do to accomplish what you came to do. It's always there, just like your intuition. It is always ready to whisper to you what you need to do next, but you must listen. You can't drown it out with noise and nonsense. And here we are again. We must get still to hear those voices. It always comes back to the quiet and the still. Don't be afraid to get off the bench. There is an electricity to change. Notice it, harness it, let it propel you forward. You have everything you need, except for those parts that you will acquire along the journey. We have everything we need to face the big challenges, the monumental speed bumps that face us all. That's why we're here. We came to be a part of the change. We are here to participate in the marathon of remaking this world. Nothing less than that. And here's the beautiful thing. You don't even have to go outside to keep moving on your path. You can be quarantined and do the work. In fact, the quarantine has given us this opportunity to hyper-focus on what matters to us, and it has given us the time to reflect. It's like we all got benched at the very same time. We need to define the time we spend here in the most productive way possible so we can hit the ground running when we reach the other side. What we are experiencing feels relentless, but if you get to lay your head down on a pillow at the end of the day, you are fighting an easier battle than those who came before us. We have resources to help us through this that our ancestors could never have dreamed of. We have brilliant people who are standing on the shoulders of the brilliant people who came before them, and they are in this battle with us. Let's link arms and make our next move. Thank you for listening to Rebirth Revolution. I'm so grateful that you do. Any help you could give me in getting the word out about this would be greatly appreciated. There just may be someone you can introduce to the wonderful world of podcasts. We can be found everywhere podcasts are found and on YouTube. If you have any questions for us, leave a comment on rebirthrevolution.com. Until next week, seek out the works of truly knowledgeable people. Nurture yourself, keep your head in the game, and figure out the meaning of your time on the bench. Remember, you're loved exactly as much as every other person on the planet, not 1 ounce more or 1 ounce less. Be strong and stay safe, because when we get up off this bench, we're going to change the world.